Welcome to Men in Transitions video log. Today we have a great guest, Jesse Hayner. And in full disclosure, I work with Jesse in a nonprofit called Young People in Recovery. It's a national nonprofit, abbreviated YPR. And Jesse is not only works for YPR, but he also does a lot of volunteer work for the Dream Center. So we have Jesse today as our guest.
Come on.
And we've had a good time. Again, he's been here for a few days. We had a great time on the slopes here.
We did.
And Jesse's a great guy. He's a great leader. I got to see, again, YPR is a great nonprofit, so I want to put a plug in for Young People in Recovery. I do, in full disclosure, I do a little part-time work for them. Jesse works for them too as a Northern California program coordinator and / program manager for NorCal, and I've gotten to see how a really good nonprofit should work. So with that said, Jesse has a lot of experience in the system and with in the prison system, and so he has experience being incarcerated, and he has experience with recovery. So we're going to listen to Jesse's story. Jesse, great having you. I love you, brother.
Love you too.
And what not only it was great working with you to see your great God-given leadership ability, but that you love the Lord so much.
Yeah.
And the stuff that you did with the Dream Center in LA just blew me away, Jesse.
Yeah.
So, when we went on that visit to the Dream Center, I mean, I know what you do in YPR,
Yeah.
but to see what you do with the Dream Center, and by the way, Jesse is moving on to the Dream Center in Texas, in Beaumont.
Yeah.
So he'll be working with the leadership there and getting that Dream Center going up.
Praise God.
So man, this is so great having you.
Yeah.
He's a little burnt because he was on the slope doing a little snowboarding this weekend.
Yeah.
So, but let's get started.
Yeah.
So Jesse, let's get started let's give us a Reader's Digest version of your background.
Some cliff notes.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing, Dan. Thanks for having me. I needed this vacay, if you will, and you've been an absolutely great host. So thank you, man. I really love you, and I appreciate you. Shout out to you and Marty and what you guys do here.
Thank you.
So incredible stuff. I'm so glad you're in my life, and yeah, man, couldn't ask for a better buddy. But yeah,
so how did Jesse get started?
Yeah, quite the introduction, man. I hope I can live up to the hype. Oh man, I'll just be brief. A lot of us, some of your viewers are listening and maybe been incarcerated, maybe coming out of programs, maybe even county jail, or of a substance use. We try to stay away from words like addicts, but it is what it is, from addiction, alcoholism. And so, I came from a decent home, Dan, and I'll give you the quick cliff notes, if you will. And so my story begins with an identity and not having one. And so since I was a baby, since I was a kid, I've never fit in, Dan. I've always been kind of like the outer bank, if you will. And so a lot of us in addiction, a lot of us who suffer from these isms, start off a lot of identity crisis. I feel like I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for a multitude of people. When I was born, my mom was 17, my dad was 19 when they had me. So very kids having kids, man. They weren't ready for a kid, especially a redheaded ginger like me. So my mom was 17. My dad was doing a 1-year stint after I was born, and my mom was a full addict at the time with methamphetamine. We're from the Bay Area. I was born in Oakland, California, raised in the East Bay in Contra Costa County. But again, I was taken by CPS at about almost a year old. Broken collarbone, broken leg. They found me. My mom was involved with some people, and they found me in the closet in a baby chair, and malnutrition, no facial expression, diapers that are like about a week old. And so I don't say that to say, oh, poor guy. I don't remember it. It's nothing now.
How old were you?
About a year. And then the CPS got me, and the foster care got me, and then My dad couldn't get me. Obviously, he was incarcerated, and my dad's parents, or actually my dad's mom and his stepdad, who was my grandpa, got custody of me, and I was so hungry that I couldn't get enough food, and they even fed me an onion. They were kind of laughing. I ate a whole onion, they said. So, but God bless our grandparents. You know what I mean. So Dad got out and got full custody of me, and so I'm gonna keep it brief.
Yeah.
I was raised in Cocoa County, and now it's a pretty nice area. There's some neighborhoods, if you're familiar with California, you got Richmond, not the greatest area. You got Antioch, Pittsburgh. But on the other hand, you got San Ramon, Danville, Blackhawk, right? And these really prestigious, nice areas. Walnut Creek, Pleasanton, right? And so I'm from there. I was raised as a kid in elementary school in San Ramon, very nice area, but we never had the San Ramon money, And so my identity crisis started there. So I'm going to school with a lot of kids that have money. I remember I was off and on with my dad, so I'd be with my grandma for a while. About 3 or 4 days a week, and I'd be in Alameda County with my dad, like on the weekends. So I had this very diverse, I didn't fit in with the white kids, so I didn't have white kid money. I didn't fit in with the black kids. Well, look at me, So looking like Opie Taylor, So I never fit in. So I'm fighting with the black kids. I'm fighting with the white kids because I don't have white people money, And so I remember I was a kid in school with a food stamp card. I got a free lunch at school, and the kids would make fun of me because I didn't have a lunch. I didn't have I got a free lunch. And everybody would tease me because I got a free lunch at the school. Anyway, fast forward to that. Drugs, alcohol. I started drinking.
At what age?
I started drinking around 11 or 12.
Okay.
I'd say 11, around 12. Yeah, around 12. Got alcohol poisoning.
Why?
Hang out with the older kids, man.
Okay,
Want to be accepted.
Want to be cool.
And you're going to, that's what it boils down to, whether you're affiliated with gangs, whether you're affiliated with certain members of society, whether you're in a certain group, it all comes down to acceptance, right? You want to be accepted. You want to make sure you fit, and you want to be accepted. And so for me, that was the initial start of my my drug career, right, and my criminal career as well. And so
what happened after 12? Take me through high school.
Yeah. Let's fast forward. So 12, I'm drinking, I get alcohol poisoning. I drink again the next week. The pot starts. I'm a good athlete in high school or 8th grade. We moved to Sacramento in 8th grade. We moved out of the Bay Area. And then we were on hotel vouchers. Me and my dad were living in a hotel on Watt in North Sacramento, but we were going to school in Loomis, so another nice area. So again, 2 different homes. So I'm going to school in a nice area, but I'm living in North Sacramento on a hotel voucher at a trap hotel my whole entire 8th grade year. So once again, no identity, right? So I'm doing things to fit in, and eventually, fast forward, the methamphetamine takes over. When I'm 15, I started doing crank. I started getting involved with a certain group of people, certain ideologies. And my sophomore year as a high school dropout, getting incarcerated in juvenile hall, running around, breaking into cars, doing all that thing. At 18 years old, I was going to a church called Lord's Gym in Roseville. A bus would pick me up in a town in Citrus Heights called the Lord's Gym, and I remember the Lord's Gym would pick me up in the bad neighborhood, and I was like the Bart Simpson on the bus, right? At church, they would like, you can't do that, I only went to church because there was cute girls, and so I'm a full-blown addict at this time, at 16, but there was seed planted in my life, and at 18 years old, I finally gave myself to the Lord after going to this youth group, and I wanted to change, and they're like, we have a place for you in LA called the LA Dream Center.
And that's how
I got involved in the Dream Center.
Wasn't that a little scary leaving?
Yeah.
Everything
my dad, rest in peace, he was really upset, the pastor. He actually went to his house and grabbed him by his neck and was like, you brainwashed my son, because my dad and me were very codependent. You got to imagine, we slept in the same bed in my 8th grade year and the freshman year in a hotel. My dad was only 19 when he had me, so we were very
close and codependent.
He didn't have a dad. His real dad was in prison and has an A number since the 50s, right? And so he didn't really have an example. So he did the best he could.
Right. And your dad was a good man, because he was right there trying to
good values.
with good value system.
Good values, but he still had one foot in the streets. My dad was known to be a fighter.
Yeah.
He was a bar guy, but he worked hard. Construction, 9 to 5 construction, but he's a drinker.
Right.
But he didn't get involved. A lot of people wanted him to be affiliated with certain. He didn't want
They
that.
wanted him to go to the next level.
They wanted him to be involved.
Yeah,
a lot of 1%ers wanted him to be involved. He's like, I don't need that crap in my life.
Right.
So when I started becoming that and going that, he was very disappointed.
Gotcha.
He's like, you don't see one tattoo on me, you don't see this. Why? Anyway.
Right.
So long story short,
Changed
changed my life at 18. Went to the Dream Center in Los Angeles.
Right.
I met Jesus, man. Well, I already knew Jesus from my grandparents, but I rededicated again.
Right.
And that was my personal relationship. It wasn't through my grandparents.
Take me real quick. First year in Dream Center, how that worked?
Yeah, I was 18 years old. It was they told me it was like, they're like, go there for a few months and you're going to get your life changed. Well, when I got to Los Angeles in Echo Park in between Hollywood and downtown, I imagined the Dream Center, this beautiful place. It's just a big old hospital, right?
That's right.
I'm like, oh, there's prayer walk in the morning. I imagine just like walking like in between ferns and trees and a waterfall at the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's an intensive faith-based boot camp program, and you're going to learn disciplines. That's what I lack in my life. Discipline.
The big thing with post-incarceration is when you're having that
discipline is the big thing. We'll talk about that. Yeah, right. And then also it goes with our Christian faith and recovery. We get the best of both worlds. All right, so we get to instill that, but disciplines through Christ and disciplines in recovery is what keeps us centered, right? Okay. So long story short, I know we're short on time, so I'll give you some more cliff notes here.
Okay.
Graduated when I was 19 years old, one of the youngest graduates in the program. It took me 16 months to graduate a 12-month program because I am the Bart Simpson of church, and I kept getting demoted. I kept getting in fights. You're not allowed to talk to girls. I kept shooting kites or shooting notes to girls. And, so I got demoted quite a few times. Right. But God chooses the most unlikely of people to and they made me a resident advisor, which means once you're in leadership on your first year, and everybody was like, why are you making him a leader? He stays in discipline, he stays in trouble. But it was more about them raising me up to change my life, not that I was the best person for the job. And so I stayed on a second year as an intern in leadership, and the third year I got on staff, and then eventually went back to Sacramento, got in some trouble, went back to the Dream Center in 2009. I worked with the teens. And that's kind of where my nonprofit life started.
Got it.
And now I will say this: after I graduated the Dream Center, I got a place in West LA in Koreatown. After 6 months, I relapsed. So my life has been a consistent relapse. Go to a program, do well in the program. I do really well. I program good. I'll be the house manager in like 4 months, right? I know what to say and how to say it. And then I'll go out, I'll do really good, I'll be gung-ho. 9 months goes by, relapse.
Let's talk about, so now we got a quick rundown on your life. Let's talk about relapse, recurrence. Give me insight into why that happens, relapse and recurrence happen.
Because, in a nutshell, because we lack discipline in the things we're supposed to have discipline in. We stop doing the things that got us sober and clean. And so we get comfortable. And I always say, stay desperate, man. A lot of us don't stay desperate for recovery. We don't stay desperate for God. And what happens is we start getting things back. I always say in the rooms, we start getting back problems in Alcoholics Anonymous and in NA and in the church. And what I mean by back problems, we start getting her back. We get a job back. We get a car back. We get an apartment back, right?
And as soon as you get those things,
we let up. We let up on the things that got us these things back in the first place.
Right.
Oh, I don't need to go to a meeting today. I skipped church today, right? And we start losing these disciplines. When you're in an inpatient program, they schedule your program. You wake up at 7. You have chapel at 7:30. You have prayer walk at this time. At this time, you work.
And all that's for a reason, right? Because that instilled discipline in you, right?
Scheduling.
Right. The scheduling is really big. And I'm going to fast forward to when, let's say, guys, and Brennick is coming out of prison and now he's trying to get his life together.
Yeah.
But now he's out of prison with no resources, no schedule, no accountability.
Here's $200 at the gate. Good luck.
$200 at the gate. Good luck. And that's and honestly, that's a problem with the system. So take me through how a person should navigate that in your opinion.
Man, we go to jail or we go to prison or we go to programs, and I'll just say, when I say reintegration, I mean prison, jail, institutions, or programs. It don't matter what it is. It's the same recipe, right? We swear off alcohol and drugs forever while we're there. We're the best husband and boyfriend. We pick up the phone every time, we call them.
I see it all the time in the prison.
We're such good people in jail and prison.
I see it all the time.
And somewhere along the lines, we hit the gate or we get out.
Right.
And we're good for a while, but we lose these things. And the most important piece of sustainable recovery is that you're 70% more likely to be successful as soon as you get out. The first person you call is somebody in recovery, and you get connected. At YPR, I love to send to young people in recovery. And shout out YPR.
Yeah.
The opposite of addiction is not recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection. Okay. Right? The opposite of addiction is connection. That's what God called
having somebody to reach out to.
If you hit a meeting within the first hour or 2 hours when you're released from prison, program, or jail, you are 70% more likely to be successful.
Yeah, that's really good.
You have got to be connected. Now, AA, NA, or 12 steps not your thing. Find a church. If that's not your thing, find an outpatient program. You have to be accountable to somebody or something.
But do you need to know that before you get out of prison?
Absolutely.
You need to know where to go. Because I remember another good friend of this ministry, Glenn, we had him on. His story was phenomenal. When he got out of prison, gave him a little money, and he didn't know where to. He just heard about
a recipe for disaster.
It's a recipe for disaster. He just happened to hear about some ministry in LA, didn't even know where it was, got on a Greyhound bus, asked a bunch of people, and just by the grace of God, he ended up, in the doorsteps. They took it, and it wasn't where he eventually ended up, but it was somewhere to go beside the street.
That's so important. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, we have to have more case management, especially with guys coming out of long-term, if they've been in a long stint in prison. There has to be something set up. You have to have things ready to go. I got a guy right now.
You got to have ID.
His grandma's been reaching me since about 4 months ago. He's in Vacaville right now. He's in New Folsom right now. And we've been talking on the phone for the last 3 months. He's getting out in March. And I've already talked to his parole agent. I've already introduced myself of who I am. I've already talked to other people. Hey, this guy's coming out. So he has a system set up.
He's ready to go. So kind of talk me through the temptations when you don't have that. Let's say you actually do let's say you go back to family. You're out of prison and you're back with family, and family is very dysfunctional.
Sure.
Walk me through that real quick.
Maybe it's not a good idea to go back to family.
I agree.
Right? A lot of us want to take the easy road. I tell a lot of guys sometimes they don't want to come out and go to a halfway house, right? They don't want to come out and go to like a program because like, oh, Jesse, I've been locked up for 9 years. I don't want to have a curfew. I'm like, dude, you're getting out of prison and you're tripping on a curfew right now. You might want to rethink, and that's when I kind of tell guys aren't serious. Right? If you're serious, you're going to think this may not be what I want, but it's what I need, and you got to be real honest with yourself. Sometimes going back to family, and a lot of family are enablers. A lot of guys I meet, their moms and dads have enabled them for years, and they mean well, but they're not a good recipe. So I would definitely, if anybody's listening that's either struggling or getting in a program or out of prison, be honest with yourself. It might be better to have a high accountability. We talk about that in workshops, right? How you go from a high accountability program for housing, and you step down to like less accountability, and then maybe subsidized housing with like an SLE, and then maybe your own apartment.
And I really, because again, we deal with this a lot in young people recovery with when we talk about housing, because it is really tempting, particularly when you're coming out of prison, to get your freedom. You want to go back to your family, you want to see your friends, you want to see your homies, right? It's just natural. But it's not the best for you because it puts you right back in the situation that got you.
And who you see in that first
and you're really vulnerable that first couple of weeks, right?
It's so easy to go back because you want to see the girls, you want to see the old homeboys. They're doing the same thing that you were doing before you got locked up. I guarantee they haven't switched the house. Maybe they switched houses, but they're doing the same thing with the same.
And then you'll get caught up in the same thing.
Man, one time I remember I went and showed off because I was clean sober. I gained about 40 pounds, and I went back to the little trap house I used to smoke dope at. And I went back to show off my car. Within about 3 weeks, I went from showing off to smoking it. You know what I mean? So you got to be really careful.
You got to be really careful.
That first 24 hours is super crucial when you get out of incarceration.
So what I hear, several things as we're ready to wrap up. Being serious about your recovery, being serious about, particularly as we talk about recovery and post-incarceration. Coming out of a jail, coming out of the county jail, coming out of a state prison. You have to be really serious about being successful and being successful in your recovery and being successful in your reintegration. As nice as it is being with family, you have to realize that's not the best thing for you. So going to a program, and there's lots of programs, by the way. I'm not trying to plug MIT. There's so many great programs. There's a whole bunch of programs out there, but you have to be serious about it, right? And at the same time, you have to think, I don't as much as I want to go back to my family, this is not the right thing.
Right.
And you need to be accountable, right?
Yeah.
Because without that accountability, right, it's so easy to go, the temptation is going to be there. As a matter of fact, in prison, all the choices are made for you.
Yeah.
But now once you're out, you have all these choices that get
there's still, you can still get those things in prison, but it's not like the community.
Right. Well, right. Again, if you're serious about your recovery and you're serious about successful reintegration, you just have to understand there's going to be a gigantic battle out there.
Yeah.
And you're going to have umpteen choices to make. So, in a nutshell, let's focus really quick on recovery.
Sure.
And just kind of real quick, the problems with addiction, and how to get through that, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So we talked about the pre-recording here, but we kind of want to get in like what's working in recovery, and what's not.
Yes.
And I want to step out of my hat of a person in recovery, and then I want to step into a person who works in recovery.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, as a person who works in recovery, as a person who's an ally for those in recovery, and also a program manager who's worked in the nonprofits now for 12 years.
Right.
I worked for youth probation, Dan. I worked for mental health parole. I was a counselor for parole for 2 years. And I also work with a lot of TAY housing, transitional age youth here in California and Sacramento. And so I know I work with a lot of agencies that have grants, these short-term grants, especially their homeless population in California now. So what's working with, drug / mental health / homelessness, what's not? What is working is, programs that are structured. Like I said, I don't suggest somebody going to just an SLE out of prison. I suggest going to at least a 90-day program.
Tell us SLE again.
Sober living environment.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is more of like, 10 guys in a house, 2 per room. If you're working a curfew, you maybe have a house meeting bi-weekly. I don't suggest that. And a lot of times, half those houses.
And why is that?
Are money motivated.
Yeah.
And so when you're money motivated, the quality of the recovery home is not as good. And so for me, what's not working is programs that have less structure. Guys like me need structure. And so when you have programs that are housing first, and I'm not knocking any programs that are housing first. Housing first means low border communities. What that means is, despite your mental health, despite your addiction, despite whatever guy wants to put you in a DSM and diagnose you, whatever it may be, you get housing. Okay? Here's the problem, is that they're not addressing the underlying issue of why you're homeless. And so we're taking homeless addicts, homeless mental health, and homeless people into housing with no program. They get to live there for a year, and then what happens is, it's like, there's no push to do anything like get SSI, to get a job. All the grant is, are they homeless, and they check a box, yes or no. How many have you housed?
Not helping.
At the end of the year, you know what happens? They go right back out into homelessness. So really, have we helped the problem?
Just basically,
we finessed it.
Yeah.
We finessed it. And so a lot of people are going to say, Jesse, you shouldn't say that. I'm just going to be very blunt. I really don't care what people think of my strategy. I'm always going to speak the truth. I'm going to be very blatantly honest. It's not working here in California. When we take people in and we don't address underlying issues, what are we doing, Dan? And so what works is structured programs. Also programs that have a reward process. If you get to a first phase, you get this. If you get something that kind of gives you reward,
it gives you motivation.
Right. And so I would say structure is the main thing. If anybody takes away anything from this cap, we talked about acceptance at the beginning. Once we get past and we get recovery, we realize, in Christ we have acceptance, right? And once we know that, I really don't have to shoot for acceptance anywhere else. Also disciplines, right? When you're in incarceration or jail or a program, having disciplines and then having structure. I think is the main points here. So yeah.
Okay. Great, Jesse. Well, we're gonna wind it up again. I love this man. He's
we can go for an hour.
We could go for hours.
Yeah.
We're just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
But we only have so many minutes on a YouTube podcast / video log. But those were great. You hit on a lot of great points, Jesse. A lot of stuff that you hit on is what is the foundation of Men in Transition and what we believe. But again, we're partners in the recovery. We're partners in ministry. So
and I will say real quick.
Any last word?
Real quick. I'm a multiple time relapser. I am really good at programming. I get a year relapse. I can get 3 years without even going to a meeting. I can just kind of white knuckle it, but eventually I'm going to fall off. right?
Yeah, that's a
Eventually.
lot of people.
And so for me, complete abstinence is what I mean. You know, I went from meth to alcohol. So anybody listening,
Yeah.
you know, get involved, stay connected. The opposite of addiction is connection. Shout out to the Dream Center. I'm getting ready to go to Texas. So if you're in the LA area and you want a free program, check out Dan and Marty's program, MIT. But hey, the Dream Center is always good too. So if you guys want that faith base, check out the LA Dream Center. Little plug for you over there. So
thank you, Jesse.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Love you, man.
I love you too, buddy.
Let's get some food.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you for our podcast made in transition.
Yeah.
And please subscribe and check out our videos. They'll be coming out as frequently as we can put them out. Thank you.
Praise God.
All right.